and welcome to Gotham Outsiders, our Batman book club. Sending Batman creepy film reels, I'm your host, Chris, a Bat Obsessive, and challenging Shiva to a death duel, my co-host, TJ.
Hi, everyone. I am TJ, your Chris-proclaimed Batman acolyte.
But unlike Shiva, we don't wait for our opponents to come to us. We invite them on the podcast, which is why we have season director of the Telltale Batman games, Kent Mudle. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
I am great.
Kent, don't tell anyone, but you might be the person I'm most excited to talk about or talk to that we've had on.
Well, my gosh. Okay, I'll make sure not to tell that to anyone or
Yeah,
to have it
I hope
recorded
nobody.
Anyone hears that.
Yeah, I hope nobody hears that.
No one's going to hear that.
How would they know?
So the story of Kent getting on this podcast is I started playing the Batman Telltale video games maybe as of recording this like a month ago, and I loved it so much maybe when I was about halfway through the first game, and I thought, there's so many people that worked on this game. What are the odds that we could get someone to come on? So I pull up the Wikipedia page. I start following people on Twitter. And the first person on my list was Kent Mudle, because he was one of the biggest directors on the game. And my thinking was, I'll follow this guy, but he's probably not even going to see this or care. But Kent, you were the first person to follow us back, and so I've reached out to you right away, and here we are.
Yeah, I was as soon as I saw you guys follow me and I saw that you were a podcast of Batman, I was like, what are the chances they'd want to talk to me on the podcast?
A very big
very
chance.
high.
Yeah,
very
because
high.
I love podcasts. I wish I'd been on guests on more. I've done I've done video opportunities for marketing stuff for whatever company I've been working for, but I think it's maybe the first podcast I've been on. I've always wanted to, actually. So I'm glad our stars aligned there.
Yeah,
we're excited that we could be your first. How fun!
So fun.
And today we're talking about The Long Halloween by Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. And Kent, you said this was your favorite Batman story.
It is. I really like this one.
So Chris and I just read it for the first time.
Yeah, this is a new one to us.
So we might be having you explain some stuff.
We were feverishly Googling just as we finished reading it, going, what?
Yes.
What? But it turns out if you Google the words Long Halloween and what, it doesn't explain everything to you.
What is the world coming to when that doesn't work?
No, shockingly. I'm sure we will get into it. Since this is your favorite, you have now become the person who has to explain it to us.
Cool. It's my favorite. I don't know if I can explain everything, but I'll try.
That's the best kind.
It is twisty and turny, The Long Halloween.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But before we get into the story proper, we do a challenge every week where TJ challenges our guests to see who can win at a Batman trivia. That's 3 questions long.
Yeah,
TJ,
how's your Batman knowledge, Kent?
Honestly, I bet you're going to find it to be shockingly low.
I don't know.
You haven't met TJ.
Okay, that's fun.
You obviously never listened to an episode of the podcast because
TJ, how are you doing score-wise, bud?
I think I've tied once.
You've tied once. He was defeated.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was defeated soundly by someone who doesn't read the comics, so
But it's not biased at all. Chris would never do that to me.
I have you know, this is the least rigged of all of my trivia games so far.
All right, let's do it.
Well, so today we have, for the first time of the pod, the introduction of one of my favorite villains, the Riddler. And so we have a very special trivia today. I'm going to ask you some of the Riddler's questions and see if you two can get them.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, God.
So see, TJ, it's totally fair. No one might understand these.
Were the answers in the book we just read?
They're not. That seemed too easy.
Wow.
All right. Are we ready to try to sort out this riddle?
Yep, as ready as we can be.
Okay. What belongs to you but is used by others?
Ken, I feel like you want this one first.
I'm struggling.
Is it freedom?
No.
Is it voice?
Ooh, that's real close.
Oh.
Is it something to do with a holiday?
It's not, no.
God damn it.
What belongs to you, but is used by... Is it your name?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
That's
You got
pretty
it.
impressive. Good job.
Man, well, sometime we'll talk about Telltale game, but I remember we went through so many riddles for the Riddler appearing in our game. I was like Googling riddles and stuff for years. I don't remember any of them, but maybe it's seeped into my blood.
So this game may be more rigged construction than I thought.
We'll see.
So that one I picked because it was fun. The next two I picked because I think there's some innuendo possibilities here.
Ooh, let's
So
get
I'm
saucy.
great at that.
Have fun. The actual answers aren't, but man, the questions. All right. What kind of men are always above board?
Seaman?
Sailors?
You know where my mind went because you said innuendo.
What did Kent say? Because I got
I said sailor, so it was pretty close to that.
no.
And I said seaman.
Yes,
But then
we
I guess
heard
that's-
you.
Yeah, but that's not really a boat isn't really a board, right? So maybe it's not nautical.
I know nothing about boats or boards.
What kind of men is always above board?
Mm-hmm.
A pilot?
No.
Above board. Like someone like climbing on a billboard.
That would be amazing if that was the answer.
An Olympic diver?
No,
They're
that's
above
a good,
the dive.
that's a-
They're
that's a
above the
good
diving
guess.
board.
That's a good guess.
Michael Phelps.
Yes, that's the
Tom
answer is
Daley.
Michael Phelps.
Those are the only two I know. No, I don't know. Give us a hint.
You think about game boards?
A gambler? No. A chess player?
Yeah, well, basically a chessman, like the pieces.
A chessman. Is that what is it? Are chess pieces called chessmen? Is that
According to this highly reputable source of the Riddler, yes.
I could believe that. That feels like an ancient gendered thing that would have been done.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't tell you, but the
They
Riddler says yes.
they gendered the chess pieces. I'm not surprised.
They did. All right. All right, TJ, you're gonna enjoy this one.
Okay.
When is a person like a piece of wood?
In the
Okay.
morning.
Pet, you dog.
Oh, it was asking for it.
As if TJ is not mad because he didn't say it first.
I am the raunchiest person on this podcast.
I don't know about that. We might have
Kent
to.
is challenging me.
Yeah, we can sort that out, I'm sure.
Okay.
We'll find out by the end of the episode.
When is a person like a piece of wood?
Mm-hmm.
When is a person like a piece of wood?
When are they hard? So like, not in that way.
It may not have to do with firmness.
Right.
This is my favorite question ever.
Give us another hint.
I want to say when they go against the grain. But it's
Can
not
I
that.
phone a friend?
I don't know how to give you a hint about this one. It's such a weird answer. I just loved the question that I had to ask.
Can I Google it?
No.
I'm struggling to think of what the qualities of a piece of wood are that could be described of a
it's-
person.
Less quality, more pun.
Oh, it's a
A
pun.
puppet?
No.
Like a wooden puppet?
I get where you're going, but no.
When is something about sawing logs?
It's a specific type of this question is ridiculous. I just
Kent,
wanted to
this
make
is
you
the
make-
weirdest one we've ever done.
How fun!
Chris
I'm happy
mixed
for
it
you.
up.
I'm happy to surrender this one. You just tell us the answer.
Okay, when is a person like a piece of wood? When it's a ruler.
What?
What?
The
When
ruler is a
it's-
piece of wood, and a
when-
person can be a ruler. I guess.
Oh,
Look,
That was
Ooh.
bullshit.
you know what? If I was Mr. Edward Nigma and I was the Riddler and I had to be doing it for all these years, I think I would have gotten to the bottom of the bucket by now.
Yeah.
did I
No,
pick
it's-
the best riddles? No. Did I pick the one that I knew would make the funniest jokes? Yes.
And they were all riddles that were in the book.
No, they were
No.
they
Oh,
were
okay.
from other books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, TJ's like, how did I miss all of these?
Well, so I know there were riddles in The Long Halloween, but I definitely skimmed all of them.
The riddles are mostly like thematic in Long Halloween. Like
yeah.
they're like questions without answers. There's that one really memorable "when does a killer not kill" thing after he doesn't get shot.
Right. So I was like,
Yeah.
were there answers in the book? So I was like, because I would have no idea because I didn't read them all.
No. These were from the many years of Batman and clearly had varying levels of skill in the writers.
All right. Was that the final question?
That was the final question.
Oh, so Kent won by
Kent won.
1 point.
Yeah, narrowly.
Who would have thought?
All right, yeah, you shouldn't get too down on yourself. I barely won.
And that one wasn't rigged, TJ. You can stop telling people I rigged them all against you.
I never say that. I always say...
You say it every single time.
I say it sarcastically that it's not rigged. All right. So are we ready to get into the long Halloween?
Let's jump into the meat of this book.
The meat. Let's do it. So my first note on this book is that it's kind of like a sequel to Year One, which we haven't done on this podcast, but I have read once. Is that correct?
I think that's right. I think it's a spiritual sequel to Year One because it's not the same writer.
Okay. Because I felt like there was like a lot of emphasis on Bruce and Selina's relationship, but I was kind of confused as like, does she know? I don't think she knows he's Batman, but does he know that she's Catwoman? So like, I wanted them to get into that a little bit more just because I hadn't read much before
So
this.
does she not know? I was wondering this the whole time too, because there's one point.
I'm pretty sure she does not know that Bruce is Batman, but I think Batman knows that Selina is Catwoman.
There's literally one time where he says the exact same thing to her as Bruce Wayne as he says to her later as Batman. And I'm like, how does she still not know? How is that possible?
And she does that to him too near the end.
Right. That's what I thought was her hint that she knew.
I don't see. I got the impression that neither of them knew.
Maybe it's neither. Maybe it might be neither. You're right. I need to remember because I don't know if you guys know, Dark Victory follows up immediately to Long Halloween, and I think they might do more Bruce Selina stuff in there.
I haven't read that one, but it's on my list, especially after reading this one, because I want like, more.
So are we, I don't know if either one of you are familiar with the cartoon Jem from the 80s, but are we having a scenario where he is cheating on her with herself?
You know what? Maybe.
A little bit.
But like, I guess she's also cheating on him with himself, so...
So they're dating in this, right?
Right. Yes.
So how did they meet? How do they know each other?
I don't think they're dating, but I think every time they see each other, they hook up. I think that's kind of the situation. I don't think they have any kind of... I don't think they have any kind of regular thing going, but it's like, if Bruce and Selina meet, they hook up, and if Catwoman and Batman meet, they fight. Like, that's kind of how it works.
So they're like enemies with benefits.
Yeah, they're enemies and when they're dressed up like animals, and lovers when they're humans.
But they still verbally banter plenty as their regular human selves.
Yes, all the time.
And this one is on a lot of top 10 lists along, like we just recently did Arkham Asylum by Grant Morrison, which is also usually on those lists.
I haven't read Arkham, but that's the one that has the crazy painterly art, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always seen panels from that. I'm like, man, that looks cool, but I've never read that one.
So I wanted to bring it up fairly early so I can get the comparison out of the way in that I feel like this one did Arkham Asylum, but way better because this is another like greatest hits of his villains where they all pop up. But Arkham Asylum was so short that I felt like nobody got serviced very well. Whereas in this one, I thought everyone had like decent page time and did what they had to do.
And Batman got serviced a few times.
He got serviced mighty.
Everyone's getting service. Yeah, I did like how in this one they use the villains to structure it. Like the main plot continues, but there's episodic villains. Like every issue has a villain. Kind of based on the holiday. It's a really nice way to kind of like touch on the Rogues Gallery without making the story about the Rogues Gallery. Because the central story is about the Falcone family and Harvey.
Yeah.
I loved the Harvey stuff. I know, Kent, we briefly talked about this over email, but the fact that the Dark Knight movie took so much from this, especially for Harvey.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised when I reread it because the fact that they have basically the structure of their Two-Face story is the same. They basically have like surprise third act Two-Face. Like they deal with Harvey Dent the whole time, and then in the last act he's Two-Face and goes off the rails.
Yeah.
Also in this one they also burn a giant warehouse of money. It's like in Dark Knight.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. I will say I think that Dark Knight and one of the other things that your video game, haha, that's what it
no.
was, do a bit more with making Harvey likable beforehand, where
Yes.
I felt like the Long Halloween, he's like just flying off the handle right away, like as soon as we meet him. So I don't think I didn't feel the same like we believe in Harvey that I usually get from his character pre Two-Face.
I liked him here, but he wasn't as likable as those other versions.
I think that's
Yeah.
fair. I think a lot of Long Halloween kind of rests on you kind of understanding who these characters are before you read it.
Yeah, I
Like,
think that's fair.
You kind of get the pain of losing Harvey through like Gordon's reaction to it, but like they don't really show you the golden boy Harvey Dent. They just allude to the fact that has been happening before the story started.
Right.
And
yeah.
he's kind of already teetering off the edge when the second he first hits the screen. Because it's like in chapter 1 that he and Batman go burn that warehouse of money, I think. Like, it happens real early.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think right away he's introduced. Jem is like basically holding him back from doing more stuff. So yeah, we miss the Apollo era of him.
I think I'm officially a Harvey fucker because we saw him at Arkham Asylum and he was pissing his pants, and I was still like, you know what? He looks pretty good though. And there's a shirtless scene in this book where his chest is looking pretty good.
I do not get it in this one, but I get it in Telltale, I will say.
I get it in Telltale. He is a slab of a man. He is so enormous. And he's voiced so wonderfully by Travis Willingham, who just kind of makes him. He's like a teddy bear that you're just afraid to fight you sometimes.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
I did note that the art style, which overall I think I really like the art style when it's them in costume for this, but their art style out of costume, every man is a Dorito.
I really like Tim Sale's art, but he does like he eliminates most features whenever he can.
Yeah.
So you do get faces that are very minimalist, and I think sometimes it's used to cool effects. Like I really like there's panels in the first chapter where Falcone comes out of smoke and he's just like a gray shape for like 2 panels. I think that's a really cool bit. But sometimes like everyone looks a little weird.
Everyone looks very similar too because of that. There's my favorite moment of this is when Harvey pulls a mask off, but his face looks exactly the same.
I kept getting
that perfect mask is insane. I had forgotten that happens. That's a real weird bit.
Funny.
Is it Falcone or Falcone?
Falcone.
I kept getting his one son Alberto mixed up with Harvey's assistant.
Right.
I thought they looked very similar.
Yeah,
I can see how you could because they're Wheatley with glasses, but they have really different glasses.
Well, and especially near the end of the book where their identities become very important. There was a hot minute where I was like, "Oh my God, it's Harvey's assistant."
That's actually funny you call that, because one of my favorite things is the early on there's a panel that's just Falcone's son's glasses and cigarettes.
Oh.
And it's like, and they do that a couple times in the book where like the bottom of the page has no outline of the panel and it's just the purple glasses that Falcone's son wears. And they're like thin ovals. They're not like big round ones like Harvey's system has. Harvey's system looks like a 1950s cartoon character.
If I had read it all in one sitting, I probably wouldn't have been confused.
I had the opposite effect because I did read it all very quickly. I think I missed some subtlety with the glasses.
I liked the Batman, Jim Gordon, Harvey Dent like trio. I wish we had more scenes with the 3 of them just like chilling.
I do too. I like this is somehow, TJ, we've made it this far to the podcast, and this is the first Jim Gordon heavy book we've read.
You're right.
Isn't that wild? How did that happen? But I love Jim Gordon. My first note is basically, was Jim Gordon born a dad? Because can you imagine him as not a dad?
We did have the gender bent Jim Gordon in Gotham High.
Yes, you're right.
Isn't that the whole premise of the TV show Gotham? He's like a young Jim Gordon is the main character, right?
I know, and it's very weird because I'm like, no, you're supposed to have a mustache and be a dad.
He does I mean, you can see in this book with how little features he needs to be Gordon. He kind of just needs the mustache.
Yeah.
If you see a blob with a mustache, like that's Gordon.
There's a scene where you see none of his features, just his glasses and mustache, and I was like, that's my dude right there.
I love that.
I feel like Gotham, the TV show, owes a lot to this book because Falcone and
Maroni.
They're both heavily in the show.
Maroni is almost the same as he is in the Dark Knight movie. as he is in this book. He's like a side character, and there's a scene where Batman talks to him outside a bar. It's like the same scene.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
There's a lot.
And he's wearing, and I think he's also wearing a brown suit in both the movie and the book, I think.
And doesn't this is one where Catwoman suggests they run off to Paris again. So there's a lot of parallels to those movies. This keeps happening too. We keep running into comics where she's always just wants to run off to Paris. It's just her personality is wants to run to Paris.
Same.
We do that in the Telltale game too. It's like the idea that Selina wants to take Bruce out of Gotham, but Bruce can never leave Gotham is like a fun part of their tragic, never really will work out relationship.
I do love that. Are you a Bat-Cat shipper?
I'm a Bruce and therapy shipper.
Aren't we all?
I don't think Bruce is mentally ready for any relationship. should really figure himself out before he makes out with anybody.
You look at Bruce and you're like, I know a spot, and then drop him off at therapy.
Absolutely. Oh, quick diversion. We talk about, I love how ripped Catwoman is in Long Halloween.
She's amazing.
Every single time the artist can shade each of her abs in detail, he does.
Yes. Yes.
And it's impressive.
It is. She looks so good.
She kind of look. I don't know about the headpiece. She kind of looks like a giant rat, but I do love how buff she is, which makes sense because like she fights Batman on equal footing, and she can backflip off anything. She should be that ripped.
Yeah,
I love it.
She's so often she's like light and thin and fashion model, you know.
Her cat suit from like this time period, I was like, girl, you got a real upgrade when you got that leather suit.
Oh, I know. She looks so much better. I will say the first time we see her as Selina, she walks in with this black dress and she has this silver bracelet that winds up her wrist like a whip would. I love it.
Oh, that's cool.
I love it so much.
How do we feel about Batman intimidating someone to step down from their job when he was like only kind of implied to maybe be shady?
That part really struck me because Batman causes that man's death. And then he's just kind of like, well, that's Gotham. And I'm like, no, Batman, you killed that guy.
Because like,
of course Falcone's going to retaliate, and he does, and that guy gets shot to death. And it's like, oh my God, Batman. Batman's pretty amoral during this whole adventure.
Yeah, Batman is interesting in this one. One of my first notes about him, and that I maintain is true all the way through, is that this is barely a Batman title. I feel like this is a Jim Gordon and Harvey title, and sometimes Batman shows up and does things. Because there's not a lot going on with him as far as arcs, as far as character. I don't know.
In a weird way, I kind of like Batman stories that are that way.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel like the way Batman often works really well is that he's this like unerring constant, and everyone else like bounces around him. Like it's like he is like this like rock of justice that will catch the criminal no matter what has to be done to get it done. But like every other character involved is like trying things and figuring things out, and you just kind of have to worry. It's like how Batman. It's like I love that this book is really just like. It's a crime story. It's about the detectives trying to take down a big Italian mafia family. Yeah, and catch like one serial killer. And so I like when Batman stories are basically just like crime or detective story plus supervillains plus Batman.
Yes. Yeah, that is a really like insightful way to put it. The way that I have it written in my notes is Batman is such a basic bitch. They had to focus on everything else.
I mean, well, my favorite, the reason my inciting Batman incident work is the animated series, which does have arcs that are episodes that are about Batman, but has I think way more episodes that are about other characters where Batman happens to show up.
Yeah, I think this is really true. Like he's the best that way.
Yeah, like stuff like The Man Who Killed Batman, where like that one little low-level mobster guy accidentally like seems like he killed Batman. So like Batman himself is barely a character. He's just there to kind of show up and cause change in the world. But it's about all the little people kind of scrambling around in this world where big people like Batman live.
I like my family drama. So when I got that scene near the end with like Alfred and Bruce, and it was like very emotional, I was like, yeah, give me more of this. I want more Alfred, Bruce, and
so that's kind of where I fall in between those two positions. I personally, my stories I like the ones where it's the Bat family revolving around him, but they're still not usually mainly about him. They're usually about his kids, right? I think that's the most interesting version. It's funny when I try to explain to people that I have a Batman podcast and I love Batman, but Batman's my least favorite character in the Bat family. They're always like, what?
I think that's very true of a lot of the best Batman stuff. Batman is a force of nature, and there are other characters that really change and grow.
Right.
I agree with Kent though. I can appreciate all the aspects that he's loving of this. I also really enjoyed this. I don't think I loved it as much as Kent loves it, but that's why I'm glad he's here to give me that perspective.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would have liked more Alfred and Bruce, or more. I mean, we really don't even hardly see Bruce in this. He's in it occasionally with Selina, but he is Batman the majority of this comic.
It's very plot driven.
Yeah,
that's all true. I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think part of what I love this so much is I just think it's so goddamn stylish.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
There's just a perfect efficiency to the writing and how the art is done that I think that is just like delicious to me.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Can we briefly, aside, since we're talking about the art, his Tim Burton-esque cape that he has going on through this one is amazing.
Yes.
All the tendrils coming off of it.
Oh, I know. I was like, does he have animatronics in his cape? How is he making it do this? I have questions.
That's part of the selling of like Batman as the monster, right? When he enters a room, he does things with like light and shadow that seem impossible. Like the stuff where he like there's even that opening where he just throws a smoke bomb down, and it's like just these like walls of gray that he's like within somehow. He just wins the fight, and like I love the way that Tim Sale does action, because he does it in like just a couple of panels, but like they're just descriptive enough for you to kind of understand what happens. And like the fights, and like Batman can win a fight in a page, but it feels like a lot happened. It's really great.
Not to keep comparing this to Arkham Asylum, but with this one, I can see why it's held just such a high level of regard still, because everything about it just feels very solid and it's a work of art, which is how I felt about Arkham Asylum. This being, I enjoyed this one way more though.
Yeah. It's as if Arkham Asylum had a coherent plot.
Yeah. There's a certain simplicity and purity to the Long Halloween, which it's weird because if you really look at the actual details of the crime plot, it's very complicated.
Yeah.
But the feelings you take away from it aren't that. You kind of just take away these like iconic, whittled down versions of each of the characters.
Yeah.
That could kind of be placed into any story, and I've always really liked that about the Batman franchise. Like you could use Batman to tell any kind of story, really.
Absolutely.
And you kind of just need the idea of how Batman is, and there's a couple principles, and then you can just go from there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that exact idea when I was reading this one, because I was curious if you have a thought on this. Like, what are the essential aspects of Batman? Because at this point, we've read 7 volumes for the show, I think, TJ, and we've read 7 different versions of Batman, basically. But he's always distinctly himself. And I am just curious, what do you think is the essential elements that have to be there?
That's it. Yeah, that is a very interesting question. And part of me is like, what do I think? And what was I told by WB that I had to do?
Fair enough.
Because there were hard lines I was not allowed to cross. I feel like I think Batman is just I think he's defined by his obsession to protect Gotham. That kind of just that's like his highest priority at all times.
Right.
And so he's going to, if you put him in like a controlled scenario, he will go and punch the villain and capture them no matter what's in his way.
Yeah.
And then you just sort of add little elements on top of that to complicate it. And it's kind of interesting to see which way he bends depending on the context.
I love that. So his defining characteristic is sort of a rigidity almost.
Yeah. Like Batman, he has one solution to the problem. It's that he will fly in and punch the criminal with his bat fist.
It's extremely true.
Yeah, it's like that's it. That's how he's like the way I do things is right, and I'm going to do it. And if something gets in my way, I hope I can punch it too.
Yeah,
that's what's interesting about this story, because that's what is interesting about a lot of the Harvey Dent stuff. Like he goes out of his way to try to work with Gordon and Harvey.
Yeah,
to kind of in the thought of maybe a collective would be better. Maybe together we could do more work than I can necessarily do by myself. So he chooses to trust Gordon and Harvey. And with with many bad Batman stuff, the tragedy is that it falls apart, right? Harvey is lost in the darkness, essentially.
Yeah. It's always interesting.
Continue, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it's always interesting to me how Batman is not an inherently optimistic character overall, but the way that he, in every version, puts so much faith in Harvey fixing things.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating to watch. It's like his one way out of being Batman is for Harvey to succeed and change the city.
Yeah, I feel like that's another thing. Like Batman is defined by being obsessive. He picks one thing to believe in, which usually is the legacy of his parents or like the idea of Gotham. But when it's Harvey, he believes in that so hard, he even believes in that after Harvey has turned into Two-Face.
Right.
Like, no matter what happens, and this continues into Dark Victory too, like, he just, like, believes there's some way for Harvey to come back. Because I feel like if he admitted that that was not a possibility, it would, like, hurt his internal consistency of himself, and he would fall apart.
And at least in my version of the Telltale video game, he was very loyal to Harvey. Oh, he believed in Harvey Dent. You bet your ass he did.
I know what button you pressed.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was very interesting. This also, I think there's the fun thing about this story is we feel like we're coming in mid-conversation between him and the two of them. Like there's a lot of, right? There's a lot of threads where it's like, oh, they've been talking about this. Specifically, Jim and Batman apparently have been having mini conversations about whether Batman is making the city worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's that classic implication, which is like, would Gotham be this weird if Batman wasn't there? Like, would it's always the implication of, like, and the Telltale games touch on this too. Like, Gotham was definitely bad before Batman.
Yeah.
But there weren't really, like, supervillains before Batman, at least in most Gotham timelines. So it's like, did he cause that? Question mark.
Yeah.
And most of the time, no one gives a definitive answer, but they just go, ooh.
Yeah, I had this discussion on Twitter with some of our listeners because I was curious what people thought. We really got into it, but we were also kind of bringing up the fact that while there weren't costume villains, most of their backstories start years before Batman. So was it like a zeitgeist thing? Did superheroing just emerge at the same time? Or like, yeah, we really got into it on Twitter.
So who did you guys think Holiday was? Like, not you, Kent, you're excluded from this. Or unless you remember who you originally thought. Like, who did you guys think it was going to be?
I was so up a creek on this. Like, I could not figure it out. I was trying really hard, but I have no idea. What did you think?
I was going to say, it's very hard for me to remember what I thought when I didn't know the answer. I think if I was really paying it for attention, I probably would have thought it was the Sun.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which isn't really the answer, just because he's like if they lay on Harvey so heavy, you're like, it can't be Harvey. Like they're talking about it too much. Like too many characters think that it's Harvey. So I think the top reasonable candidates were the Sun or the sister.
That's fair. I didn't know who to pick. I didn't know where it was going. Part of me was like, maybe Calendar Man really is like sneaking out somehow and doing this, but then maybe halfway through I was like, you know what, I bet it's Harvey and he's developing like this second persona that's doing all this and he just has no idea, and that's going to lead into the Two-Face, and then of course he gets blown up fairly early on, so I was like, oh, okay, Harvey's done for. Like, here's Two-Face. I didn't expect him to keep going on as Harvey after that, but no, after that I was like, you know what, I have no idea.
Yeah, I was pretty lost on this one. Did not see it coming, and still not totally sure I know what happened, but we'll get there.
I had absolutely no idea who Solomon was.
Oh, Solomon Grundy. Yeah.
Born on a Monday?
Had never heard of him before now.
Really?
He was in the animated series, I think.
Yeah, he was in the animated series.
I think he was even in the Justice League cartoon. I think it's the only reason I know who he is.
He was.
I was a fetus at that time.
Okay.
Oh.
No, I'm not that young. I was very young.
You gosh darn youngins.
I know. So I've seen some of those.
I'm older than him, for the record.
Just by a little.
Not by a little.
Anyway. So I've seen some animated series, some Justice League, but I haven't seen all of it.
I feel like Solomon Grundy, he was in something else that you definitely would have seen. Was he in Young Justice, maybe?
Oh, maybe. He was a nobody, though.
I mean, he's effectively like a gray Hulk in most of the animated things.
He really is.
They're not really doing the particular weirdnesses of Solomon Grundy.
It's true. Though, to be fair, in this, he's like a sweet baby angel cinnamon roll for some reason.
Yeah, can we talk about the part where Batman gave him Thanksgiving dinner?
Can we please? That was the cutest thing. It made no sense. That is the cutest
things. It's actually weird how nice Batman is to him when he's such an asshole to most other people.
That was one of the sweetest parts in the whole book.
Yeah, he's so sympathetic to poor Solomon, who's just a maniac who lives in the sewers.
Yeah.
And for a book that's so plot-driven, that was like one of the really good character beats, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
The bit where Bandaged Harvey talks to him and he says the whole rhyme and it calms Solomon down is like really cool.
It is. I like Solomon Grundy.
Yeah,
Here
that was
for
a good
him.
payoff.
So the
Then-
sewers of Gotham are pretty full, huh?
Yeah, they got
I'm sure,
killer
like,
Croc down
yeah.
there.
That's the fun like picture this book paints of Gotham. It's basically like supervillains are wildlife.
They
Because
are.
they're not really in the plot at all, except like Joker kind of tries to assert himself, but like they're just like a problem that if you live in Gotham, supervillains are a part of the weather. Like that's what I like about Solomon Grundy.
And you
It's
mentioned
true.
Joker. I think Chris has some feelings about the Joker in this.
Is this, I mean, we've read quite a few Joker versions as well, but this is definitely one of the, let's say, more queer coded than usual versions.
He said there's one line where he asked Batman for a kiss. I think there's
Yes.
much queer. I think there's much queerer Jokers in this one, but I think he's a little queer.
I mean, so we see him, first of all, this will be on our Twitter for sure, but the first scene we have of him is him sitting in a chair, and no straight man has ever sat in a chair the way he's sitting. I'm sorry.
Nope, that's true.
And then
true.
he asks Batman for a kiss. He's literally mad that he's not the only maniac in Bruce's life now.
Yeah, Chris wrote me and was like, "Did you pick up on how gay this was with the Joker?" And I was like, "You know what? I actually didn't notice it at all, but I think that's because I've just accepted that the Joker is a flamboyantly coded, possibly queer for Batman character."
I think
In all the good Joker stories, he is.
And some of the bad ones, because we again, not to once more bring up the name of Grant Morrison, but in Arkham Asylum, he like literally smacks Batman on the butt. So
Oh, yeah, he's wearing the great heels. He's got his nails.
Oh yeah,
done. He looks great.
But yes, he definitely wants to kiss Batman at midnight in this one.
He does. That's true. It's interesting though, because this one didn't read as queer to me because he actually feels a little more focused on the holiday problem than he does on Batman. It almost actually feels like Batman's actually a little secondary to his goals in this one, which normally it's all Batman.
I assumed it was jealousy. That's how
I think that's a fair reading, but I think in the text he's more like he's just mad about his rep.
It's
like
true.
he's mad about his Gotham-wide rep, as opposed to specifically that Batman has other arch nemesis.
And that's more how I read it too. But I'm always here for a good gay reading, Chris.
I mean, I will. As I have told you before, TJ, I don't care how straight the story is. I will make it gay.
I respect that greatly.
It's why we're here.
More stories need to be gay.
This is what our podcast is.
I loved Poison Ivy in this. Her art was so cool.
Amazing.
This is one of the coolest items. Wait, real quick, I want to talk about. I actually think Joker is my least favorite design on this because his teeth make me uncomfortable.
I don't like his teeth. I
They
do
look
love
like-
him.
Do you guys know those Tom and Jerry cartoons where like he'll smash his head into a piano and the guy are in his mouth? That's what it looked like.
It looks like that. I like most of it, but I just don't know. I can't believe that's the decision you made with the teeth. I just think that's the one like weird, the one like weak design in the book. I think everyone else looks great.
I think
There's
that's
one point
fair.
near the end where Batman punches him in the face and like his teeth are all like falling out and it looks so weird.
Yeah, they bend inward.
I think that's fair. I do love him just becoming the Grinch for no reason. Just like, I'm gonna steal his family's presents. I'm gonna dance around and sing. He was just having a good time.
That's the classic from the animated series. The thing where he changes the lyrics to be about him fighting Batman. Like jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg.
I was waiting for that to happen and it didn't, and I was sad.
Yeah, Poison Ivy. I really liked when this book started to show the clashing of Bruce Wayne and Batman, where like Poison Ivy was having an effect on Bruce Wayne, and then we have the Scarecrow fear toxin ends up affecting his life as Bruce Wayne as well.
Yeah,
so I thought that was really cool.
I did too. So I have questions about what Ivy did to him, because to me it appeared that Catwoman was pulling vines out of his chest.
I also realized I had a reaction to that part too. How Poison Ivy's powers work in this is very unclear and inconsistent.
Yeah, I had no idea what that panel was telling me.
And whatever was wrong with him was cured by her just slashing the plants off his chest, and that was it. But it's not even. It's very odd. I don't know why that breaks the spell or how the spell works. It's not really lingered on.
Were there spores? What happened? But also I love that her line there is, usually I would enjoy doing this, but I guess I have to do it for work. And I was like, wait, Does she find it sexy to pull vines out of a purse?
Maybe she finds it sexy to leave claw marks on a guy.
I mean, that makes more sense.
She's a scratcher and a biter, I presume.
She is.
Yeah.
Too much.
I'm sure Catwoman likes leaving her mark.
I'm sure she does.
Yeah.
I've played the Telltale games. I know.
Yes, that's true.
I'm looking through my notes and I'm like, man, and Chris, you sent me something similar to this too when reading, where we're like, you know what, this is going pretty quick, and then you turn the page and there's just a brick full of dialogue from the mob gangs. And
yeah, TJ and I did not plan out how long it would take us to read this sufficiently, so we were simultaneously binging it this weekend, and there was one point I wrote to him and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be done in no time, and I literally flipped to the next page and it's a wall of text, and I was like, never mind.
Yeah, I keep saying I wanted more Bruce Alfred, more the holy trinity of Bruce, Gordon, Harvey.
Yes.
There was just so much mob stuff going on, and like I just don't care about any of those characters.
Yeah, I think when it's them talking to each other, I was over it pretty effectively. I was like, okay, get back to doing other things. But,
right.
Yeah.
But again, I appreciate it. It's a different story than I'm used to, and that I would go out of my way to read. But I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
No,
I liked it.
That's fair. That stuff was just a matter of taste. I personally really love the Falcone family stuff, but I just find like intricate mob crime stories really interesting generally.
That's fair. I think I like it as them solving it. I'm interested in that part. I was less interested in hearing all of their conversations. That was the part I was like, okay, we can move on. Before we get totally away from the queer read of Joker, I have to point out that when Bruce is off fighting Joker, Jem and Harvey show up to see Bruce, and Alfred's excuse for where he is that he is off having sex with someone, and then it pans to him and Joker.
That's true.
Because did they visit on Valentine's Day? Is that what's happening at that moment?
I think so, where he is enjoying his time with Joker.
Having a good Valentine's Day up there. That's funny because when the first excuse is that it's Valentine's Day and the second excuse is that it's Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Like there's always a holiday-based excuse whenever they try to come talk to Bruce in his manor.
That is very real. It gets real Freudian when we get to Mother's Day. It does. There's a whole.
No, it does. You're right.
Alfred's like, he doesn't call him a mama's boy, but he's just short of calling him that. Oh, he's very involved with his mother is the way they put it. And then he has this whole story about how he asked his mother to wear pearls. And I was like, but why?
Oh, see, I thought that was sad. That was the scarecrow toxin, right?
Yeah. Like, have you ever been like, Mom, please wear this for me?
Well, she said, I only wear those for special occasions. And he was like, well, let's make tonight special. I don't know.
Sorry,
it worked
weird.
for me. I enjoyed that part. I thought it did what it wanted to for me.
Okay, I'm glad.
Get out of here.
I'm fine with queering everything, but I agree with TJ on that one.
That wasn't even me queering it. That was me psych professoring it.
And so, like, thank goodness someone else is defending this.
It's weird because I don't want to be on the opinion of being like, it was less gay than you thought. Because normally I'm like, no, it was more gay than you thought.
No, that was not gay. That was just weird. Let's be clear.
Yeah, that was
like, what's going on here?
Wait, or are we saying Bruce was like, Mama, let me try on your pearl necklace, please?
That's what I thought it was at first, but then you reminded me of the context, like, I want my mom to wear this pearls.
Right. That's the part that's weird. But I would have loved it if Bruce was like, I would like to wear the pearls. I would be here for that.
Right, trying on his mom's shoes in the closet.
He's got him just swishing down that alleyway, just working it.
I love it. Okay, I'm back on board.
Okay, we keep saying we've read about 7 volumes as of now, Chris, and every single one talks about pearls or has pearls.
Man, we made it so far in this one. It was right near the end before his parents thing came up, and I was like, man, we're gonna make it a whole volume of Batman without the pearls, and then it was like the pearls.
Right. It's like we get it.
Which is weird because I think a lot of the other strengths of this are the fact that it does just kind of start almost in media res. It's like the beginning of this book is very much like, you know who Batman is, you know who Gordon is, you know who Harvey Dent is. Let's go, 100%. Which I appreciate because it's like let's not do any of the fat. Let's just get to the business of the plot.
Right. We read one very recently. We read Gotham High, where they try to act like we don't know who Joker is. And we were like, who is supposed to be reading this? So confused.
I was confused why Riddler wasn't killed. It was like a few issues later in this, I was like, oh, it's because it was April Fool's Day. I get it.
I guess.
But he's also not one of her targets, or one of the
Yes.
targets. So there's no reason to kill him.
Yes.
Because Holiday really Holiday killed like other random Falcone goons, but not like it wasn't complete like random collateral damage with the killings.
Yes. Can we talk about Calendar Man for a minute while we're talking about villains? Because we
Yes.
I love Calendar Man. You guys should definitely read Dark Victory because there's more Calendar Man.
Oh, okay. So I was gonna say there's a chance we may never see him again. So let's talk about him while he's here.
Yeah. Oh no, he does some. It was funny because in my Dark Victory and this in my brain, they all merge together because it's a direct continuation. There's no air between them. So I was like remembering stuff. I was like, when does this happen? I got to the end. I was like, oh, it happens in Dark Victory. That kind of threw me off.
There was one thing in this where Harvey was like, oh, I went and visited Dad. He's still crazy. And I was like, wait a minute. Is his dad Calendar Man?
That would have been amazing.
That theory.
No. You remember the part where Harvey leaves Calendar Man in the prison? He leaves him in Arkham. He breaks everybody else out but Calendar Man.
Right. So maybe it's his dad.
Maybe. Amazing. I love that Calendar Man functions as Hannibal Lecter in this, where they're showing up to consult with him. I love it. Right?
I've never read anything else with him. I think he popped up in the Harley Quinn TV show at one point.
He's in Lego Batman.
Okay. Like I've heard jokes of him. I've never seen him in a serious story.
Yeah,
I remember when I played the first Arkham Asylum game, you could find his cell, and it's clearly Calendar Man's cell, and it looks like the Long Halloween cell, but he's not there.
Oh, that's so fun.
There's like an Easter egg of him. I think what I read this at one point, like Calendar Man was a very obscure Batman character that they kind of brought back for Long Halloween because they had this calendar idea. Like he was never a big name, and I think it's actually one of his most famous appearances.
Yeah, this makes sense to me. I love it.
I do want to say I love the format, the structure of this story. Falling on holidays was very creative, and I thought it was effective.
Yeah, I do too. I think that was fun.
Very clever way to do a serialized thing. It gives it an immediate structure.
Right. And I feel like you could tell this was like issues coming out far apart because binge reading it near the end, I kept getting explanations every time a certain character would pop up. Like, like the daughter. Recap. Right. And I was like, okay, I guess this was helpful for everyone reading it over the course of a year. But
there are definitely some full conversations that amount to previously on.
Right.
Yeah, and like you're saying, I'm sure that's the nature of serialization. Like at best, you got an issue one per month.
Yes.
So it would have been at maximum 3 weeks since you last read an issue.
Yeah, this is also the first and probably one of the few times we'll ever see Gotham Penitentiary, because I wrote down, oh yeah, there is a jail that isn't Arkham.
That's fine. I thought the famous Gotham prison I thought was Blackwater.
Right? Like, what is this? What is this one?
I don't know what the regular old Gotham Penitentiary is. Blackwater's like hardcore prison.
Yeah,
I've heard of that recently from playing a little thing called the Telltale games.
Yes, that's why I know that one. But
right,
I know.
That sounds like it's like hard. That's like the hardcore prison. Maybe Gotham Penitentiary is like cushy prison.
There was a part where Calendar Man says something about like, oh, Batman's mom like might die because it's Mother's Day. He goes, everyone has a mom. I'm like, joke's on you. His mom's already dead.
I did laugh about that. He definitely went off and cried for a minute when that.
Calendar Man saying everyone has a mom is a good Calendar Man bit.
That is really funny. I liked him a lot.
He's really fun. Yeah, I do love the Hannibal Lecter thing, like you mentioned before. That's such a cool use of the character. It's such a good visual too. Being the other side of it's that thing where like always being on the other side of the glass from Batman, you can be confident because you don't think he's not going to immediately punch through the glass to get you, so you can be
probably.
Yeah, I really enjoyed their scenes together.
I do too. Yeah, I liked the image of him standing on the pages of the calendar. That was really good.
Yeah, both hands up on the glass.
Yes, love it.
What about Falcone's daughter? What did you guys think of her?
The big Sophia.
Yeah,
the big burly one.
The one that can smash a head with her hands.
Yeah, she thinks she's in Game of Thrones or something.
So I want to say that Sophia Falcone is actually one of my favorite characters, and it's actually more because she's in Dark Victory and more stuff happens with her.
Okay.
But
does she not die at the end?
Surprise, she's in a wheelchair. The next thing
Oh,
opens up.
interesting.
Yeah, you should read Dark Fate. I don't want to spoil it for you because it is legitimately good. But
Maybe,
like,
Ken,
I
maybe
love-
you'll
I
have
love-
to come back on and talk Dark Fate.
I would love to, because I skimmed it after I read after I read Halloween, but I didn't read it in detail. But I just love that she's this gigantic, powerful lady.
Yeah,
Like,
she's
that
amazing.
She crushed Riddler's head like an egg. It's just a cool character. It's such a non-traditional female character in like a Batman comic.
Like, if we're talking queer characters in this, Falcone's children are queer icons. Okay.
Yes, they are. All of them.
You know what? Pretty much all of them, except maybe the fat son that dies early. He seemed kind of straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the nerdy little son and Sophia definitely queer.
Oh yes.
Yeah, near the beginning with is it Alberto is the skinny
Alberto's
son?
the skinny son, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, this is kind of like queer subtexty going on, and then we get the daughter, and I'm like, well, she's butch.
Yes, I love
think Alberto has some pretty limp-wristed cigarette smoking poses near the
He
end.
does. His purple glasses. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no way. There are just no straight people in Gotham. This is just the conclusion. It's just Jem. Jem is the straightest person in Gotham.
Something about all the terror and madness. You know,
Yes.
a great place to be queer.
Can someone explain to me what Scarecrow's powers are? Because when he gets introduced here, they're like, oh no, they brought him straw, and there's just like a giant piece of straw.
Okay, I also have no idea what that was, because Scarecrow's one of my favorites, and I was like, I have no idea what that.
Well, he had like climbed out the window on it, or so. It looked like he had controlled it, like Poison Ivy or something.
He doesn't have powers though. He uses chemicals. So what?
Yeah.
I also remember that straw bit, but I don't remember what I thought about it. What the heck was that?
I was baffled. I don't know. I just I'm not gonna lie. When I read it, I was like, sure, and just moved on past it. So I don't even have a note.
I didn't know if I had if I just didn't have a certain knowledge of the character.
No.
Okay.
No, I have no idea.
No, I think all he really has is the fear gas.
Yeah.
I don't think he has anything else special that he can do.
He has fear gas and a psych degree, and he's not afraid to use them.
Well, someone brought him a very special piece of straw.
They did. What does it mean? I don't. Maybe what happened was the straw was left behind from him crawling out the window. Maybe it was like a clue left behind instead of what he used to get out.
It looked like he had used it as a rope.
Maybe this is a Scarecrow where he's not really crazy unless he has the costume on. So somebody brought him his head.
Oh, that would be cool. Okay.
I think there have been Jonathan Cranes like that, where he's not as nuts outside of the costume. But when he's dressed up as Scarecrow, he's Scarecrow.
That makes sense. I will accept this. Headcanon accepted. That's what it was.
Close enough. I love the part when he and Mad Hatter are together.
Yes.
Because they're both talking in different nursery rhymes.
Yes.
And they're clearly not understanding what the other person is saying.
I love it.
They're kind of having an argument, but one of them is just, what is it? Yeah.
One of them's quoting Alice in Wonderland.
He's making Lewis Carroll quotes. And Scarecrow is saying some other poems. I don't remember who.
I know.
And Mad Hatter is talking in the internet capitalization when you're making fun of someone.
He's talking like a Homestuck character.
Right. He is that meme.
That is so funny.
It's that SpongeBob meme. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Okay. That is him. That's how he talks in every comic. Amazing.
It does feel like Mad Hatter should always sound annoying. You're like him talking is making me upset.
I love the idea of it's Harvey that walks in and is like, please stop talking to both of them, right? Isn't that scene?
That's fun.
And I just love that idea where he's just like, no, this is so annoying.
So Harvey gets acid thrown on his face, and I'm confused about whose intention went into the acid originally.
It was Falcone, right?
Yeah, it was Falcone.
Yeah.
But was it his assistant? Was it Harvey's assistant that gave it to?
Yeah, his assistant made it possible. He had been totally turned to being a Falcone student.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize his assistant was working for Falcone.
There's a scene earlier on when he's at a Falcone party or something, and he's totally in. He's been seduced by the money of the Falcones.
For a minute, I thought it was Harvey telling his assistant to give it to him to
Well, because that's what he says. He says, "This is from Harvey," and then he winks.
Right. So I thought Harvey was trying to kill Maroni.
No,
sneakily. I was
a lie.
Confused.
No, it's fair. I was confused at first until he threw the acid, and then Falcone is like basically says I did it at one point. So I was confused at first too, because the lie that he says is that it's from Harvey.
So Maroni thought that Harvey was trying to kill him, though, is why he threw it in his face.
No.
I think it's because earlier in the story, Falcone is like, Maroni, if you solve this holiday thing for me, we'll be in good forever. So maybe it's Maroni. Maroni seduces the Harvey assistant. I forget exactly.
I'm not. Yeah, there's so much double crossing in this that at this point I'm not sure who double crossed who when.
Yeah, because I think I don't remember if Maroni actually decides to go against Falcone during this. I think he's like mulling the idea, but I don't think he actually decides to do it.
I think that's true.
Yeah, he's like mulling it. And there's some tension. They're like not the same family. Like Falcone and Maroni are kind of famously rivals in some stories.
Yeah. Yes.
But in this, Maroni is being relatively peaceful toward Falcone, and I think he even tries to help him out.
Yeah.
So the intention of throwing the acid at Harvey was because
they think he's Holiday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I also, when you asked earlier who I thought it was, at this point in the story, I also thought it was Harvey because I just assume Alfred is right all the time. And Alfred was like, Bruce, what if it's Harvey? And I was like, well, Alfred said it. So.
Yeah. Like my only reason to be so vehemently, it's no way it could be Harvey because so many characters suggested it's Harvey, actually.
That's
like,
really fair.
Like it's like if there's going to be a twist, it can't be unless they do like a reverse twist and like, oh, it was him. So you could do twists both ways. But
I knew he was going to turn into Two-Face, so I was like, well, he can't be Holiday and Two-Face, right?
I mean, I'm still not sure he wasn't. Okay, but anyway, I have so many questions about this ending.
So then Two-Face busts out everyone except Calendar Man because fuck Calendar Man.
So rude.
And they go.
Did he flip the coin for every person and it landed on heads for everyone but Calendar Man, or did he only flip it for Calendar Man? Because that would be hilarious if he just kept flipping it. It just landed on heads for everybody, and then he's like, "Oop, there's the tails."
That's kind of always the interesting question with Two-Face, right? Because it's like Two-Face has this thing where he's like, I follow what the coin says, but clearly he kind of does what he wants to.
Right, he has to ask the coin. He has to decide the question, right? So I don't totally have where this happens, but it's somewhere around here. That is Alfred and Bruce Wayne talking about Thomas Wayne's medical practice. This is somewhere close to here, where he saves the son's life.
Yeah. I thought this was interesting because how often is Thomas Wayne a doctor?
I feel like as soon as I read this, I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing that used to be a thing. Like,
well, it was in Batman, the movie Batman Begins, right? Because it shows him like fixing Bruce's arm and stuff.
Yes, he's a doctor in that, and he is a doctor. I want to say in older comics, like in past continuities, he's been a doctor. But you're right, it doesn't happen much now.
I couldn't think of another solid example because I feel most of the time he's just like, oh, he was big business guy. Like, he's because Bruce inherited his stuff, and what Bruce inherited is being a CEO in a boardroom. So, so it's kind of confusing that he was like a practicing doctor.
But I think the idea, because this is TJ, remind me if I'm wrong, but in Batman Begins, the whole thing is that he's a doctor that inherited his wealth from his father and then passes on that wealth to Bruce, right?
You're overestimating my memory.
If that's
true, that's interesting because I forgot that too.
I think so. It's definitely, he's a doctor in some versions, and I think it's because the Waynes have generational wealth. It's not like Thomas Wayne made it in most versions. Like if we go Gates of Gotham or the Court of Owls or whatever, their family has had wealth for generations.
Do you guys think there was some sort of parallel here between Bruce and Alberto in terms of like Bruce kept saying, "Oh, my father's house." You know what I mean? And Alberto is very much about inheriting his father's business or not inheriting it. So I didn't know if you guys had any thoughts on that.
That's a really interesting point. I think that's really true. There's definitely a through line of questioning their father, because the scene that I'm bringing up where he's a doctor, the whole scene is about him going, how could he save this bad person's life? And Alfred's like, he's a doctor. They don't get to pick and choose. They're not Batman. you know.
Right. And to me, like, in my mind, and having just played the Telltale video game, I'm like, my Bruce would be in the mindset of like, oh, my father was such a hero, he even saved this person.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that he is like, because we're seeing a Bruce that has made this deal with Jim and Harvey that's kind of pushed him in a different direction than he would usually go. And then he's sitting here watching, he's like, all this destruction could have been stopped if my father had been an unethical doctor, basically.
Yeah, that's wild.
I was like, what a way to take it.
The other thing that just struck me too is like, I don't think they do this, but it's like that incident could have totally inspired Bruce's no killing policy. Because like if his dad wouldn't even let Falcone die, like, because that was actually a hard rule WB gave us when we did the Telltale games. Like, Bruce is not allowed to let someone die.
Yes.
If someone can be saved, he has to at least attempt. He could save one person or another person, but he cannot willingly let anyone die, even a horrible villain.
Yeah. And that tracks as one of the things that's pretty often or always true, pretty much always true in the comics. I can't think of an example where that isn't at least what he's intending. Though we've had discussions on this show before where it's like some of the things he does, there's no way he can ensure people don't die from, but okay.
Yeah, no, Batman causes so many internal bleeding brain hemorrhages every single time he steps out the door.
The fact that he doesn't kill is a technicality at this point.
My mind goes to Batman Begins again with Ra's al Ghul. He like leaves him to die when like he could have saved him. So Harvey breaks out all the villains. They go to Falcone's, and then he kills Falcone.
Yeah, so
he does.
This is
I love the iconic every single villain is in the room scene. I love that spread.
Yes, it's so good. They're all just like posing. I love to think of them arranging themselves before he got there. And they're like, no, you sit here, it'll look better.
Like posing for a group photo.
I just realized even Penguin is there. I don't think he's appears before this point.
Right, he does nothing else but appear for the group photo. That's it.
He just wanted to be included.
He got the friend invite and was like, okay.
He was the pity invite.
He's on the Facebook thread. They can't invite him.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like, oh, we didn't mean for him to come, but he's in the group chat.
You know, they all showed up, and someone went, "Who the hell invited Penguin?"
He smells like fish.
For real. No one wants Penguin.
I think I saw him bite Solomon. What is he doing here?
what is going on? I did love that Solomon is in this part, even though all he's done really is chilled in the sewer and eaten Thanksgiving. Yeah,
I'm looking at the spread again, and I forgot that Solomon was in the scene. Because Solomon, like, did they go down and say, "Hey, Solomon, come on"? And he was like, "Yes."
I guess there is no logic behind how this came about, but I would love the backstory of the group chat as they arranged it. And they're like, I can't do that night. I have something going on.
I'm surprised they all agreed.
It's
like
wild.
I can't imagine Joker just being like, "Yeah, I'll follow you, Harvey Dent." Like,
I know. What was that? His whole thing this whole time was how mad he was that someone else was taking his shtick, but he wants to show up in the middle of everyone else who is also doing this.
Did you guys think Harvey, was he villainous in this? Like, I know he kills 2 people, but to me, like, like I know it's supposed to be like, oh, he's a villain, but I was kind of on his side a little bit.
TJ, I know that you want to fuck Harvey Dent, but you cannot use that as your basis for morality.
I mean, to be fair and to justify TJ's horniness, I think that's kind of always the thing with Harvey, right? It's like he does bad things for good reasons. Like, it's objectively better that Falcone's not alive,
sure,
because it's proven clearly and demonstrated. Part of the reason Gotham is so awful is because the Falcone crime family has twisted into this thing that serves Falcone. So, like, if you ignored the justice system, like, it'd be better if someone just walked up to Falcone and offed it. Like, that would just save more lives, more people would be better off. Like, I don't know, maybe the community would be better. So it's like, but he does it in a way that's like, if we live in a world where we believe in justice, no one should do it this way.
Exactly. He definitely has a point, because he does try to do it their way, and he's like, they're going to be out in an hour, and the comics, like, it was less than an hour. So it's not like he didn't make an effort. That said, he had already lost his mind at this point. So
do you think he's crazy?
Yes.
Yeah. He's nuts. He's talking to himself at this point. Like,
true.
He's flipping the coin to make decisions. I gotta say, they kept like harping on the fact that Calendar Man brought this up, because apparently Calendar Man makes sense, likes astrology. he was like, Harvey Dent is a Gemini. And I was
that made me laugh.
I was trying to read so much into this. I have a friend who's into astrology who was here today, and I was just like, explain this to me. And she looked at me like I was an idiot, and she was like, Gemini's two faces. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
I wasn't
Gemini's the famous. I'll tell you why I know that. I'll tell you because I played the Mega Man games growing up, and one of the bosses in Mega Man 3 is called Gemini Man, and
love it.
And there's two of them.
I love it. I wasn't thinking about it. I was trying to read into the astrology symbology of it, and my friend was like, "No,
That
it's
is one
so
of the
much
two,
more obvious."
That is one of the two bits of foreshadowing they do for his madness.
That's true.
The reason that throwaway line about him visiting his crazy father exists is to show that there's a history of madness in Harvey's family.
Right.
Yes.
And then the Gemini things to show that it's like all this, everything with Harvey Dent is always that he's destined to become Two-Face.
Right.
I
Like
know.
all these like cosmic forces are very unfortunate.
If you have mental illness in your family and you're a Gemini, you're screwed.
According to this comic, and if
It's
you
like
get
being-
acid
it's
thrown
like-
in your face, is just a sure way to just go straight crazy. Apparently,
It's like being a Targaryen.
yes.
The gods flip a coin.
Oh, yes. It is always fascinating to me. One of my favorite things is when any of the writers of Batman try to like impose actual psychology onto the characters. And they're like, the way they always go with is they're like, Harvey has OCD. And I was like, no, no, he doesn't. No, that's not how that works.
It doesn't usually lead to mass murder. OCD.
Yeah, shockingly, most people with OCD do not commit mass murder. Here I am, the psych professor, to tell you this in case you didn't know.
Good to get confirmation. Honestly.
So then Harvey kills his assistant for revenge. And then does he turn himself in? Is that what was happening?
He lets Batman catch him. He comes back to the roof, and I actually wanted to mention there's a really good panel at the bottom of page 358.
Ooh.
Where early on when they have their first rooftop meeting, there's a panel where all three of them are it's a shot below, and all three heads, Gordon, Batman, and Harvey, are in it.
Yes.
And they redo that exact same composition here, but he's Two-Face
Yes.
I
I wrote
noticed
that
that.
too. It was like a
Yeah.
perfect circle because it was also that was when they made their deal, and then this is where the deal falls apart, right? Like it's gone full circle around.
For the very small amount that they did to establish the relationships between the three of them, I thought it was very impactful, especially at the end on the roof.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it is interesting to watch, Batman having believed so hard in Harvey, but Jim the whole time was questioning Harvey and wondering, like, should we be going with this? But he's also questioning Batman, and he's like, is this a good idea? Like, poor Jim is sitting there stuck between these two people that he's like, I have made a deal with the crazy people in my life, and what am I doing?
Yeah, I think a big note in this whole book is poor Gordon.
Poor Gordon.
They show that he
deserves better.
They show that he like goes home late all the time, and he like misses Thanksgiving dinner, and like he's working so hard, and his best friends are a Batman and a guy with two faces. It's just like real depressing life Gordon has.
And he's definitely having marital problems. Like it's not on panel, but there's one part where she's like, the phone's ringing, no one calls for me. And like I felt tension between them, and I think that's something that like actually happens, right? They split up or something.
Yeah, they're not usually together.
And then Harvey at the end implies that there was more than one holiday killer, even though we didn't even talk about who the killer was. We skipped that.
We implied it earlier. The villain was daddy issues all along.
It was daddy issues. There's some good foreshadowing of that, because if you read the early parts, like every once in a while Alberto like tries to ask a question, and Falcone's basically like, not now, son.
Yes.
Like he's like excluding him every single chance he gets. And it's kind of nice and tragic, because you actually get the impression that he excludes Alberto because he wants better for Alberto. He wants Alberto not to be in the crime family.
That's how I read it too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tragic, because his attempt to be a better father is what turns Alberto into a killer.
Yeah.
And it is actually nice and sad and tragic.
I know the one thing this is also just a theme with me. So, I love the Robins, and I was a little sad that we didn't have a Robin in this story, because what beautiful parallel would there have been if there was a Robin carrying on his legacy while he's dealing with Falcone and Falcone's son and the legacy. I think that would have been good.
Well, again, you might need to read Dark Victory.
Oh! Spoiler, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I was confused about why Alberto faked his death? Question mark.
So I guess so he wouldn't be considered for. I mean, because he wasn't on the table of
Okay.
possible suspects.
Kent, I
That's
think it's
true.
time for you to explain what you think happened.
Yeah, what was the ending?
Okay,
Because
and I guess my understanding is certainly not cohesive, but
That's
there were
fine.
there were two holiday killers. It was Alberto and Harvey's wife.
Okay, yes, that's
Yeah.
what I thought.
I read some theories and explanations after reading, and what I came up with was that Harvey's wife did the first 3 killings, and then Alberto faked his death, and then he kept continuing on with the killings.
But she said, okay, because I thought she suspected Harvey of having done it. Did she suspect Harvey of doing the other ones?
She suspects that Harvey killed Alberto because she didn't do it. And when he gets home late that night, his hair is wet even though he's wearing a hat. But she's obviously crazy as hell. And just, so she assumes that he continues on with the killings. And then there's that scene later where he has the gun in the basement. And from our perspective, it looks like she's confronting him about the gun. But really, he's found her gun. And that's why, the first time reading it, looks like Harvey is being aggressive towards her. And we're to think, it's because he's a murderer. Really, it's because he's realized that she's the murderer. But she thinks it's like a shared secret.
Oh my gosh, this is so complicated.
Right. Kent, do you have anything to add?
I actually don't know. I couldn't tell you who did what murder. I just kind of accept the conclusion of the two of them. And that's enough for me.
How do you guys feel about... So near the end, I was like, okay, I can accept that it was Alberto, and we have this kind of... Harvey was kind of also the killer because he did a version of the killing at the end. Okay, I was fine with that. And then we get this mid-credit scene of the wife confessing, and I was like, did I really need that? I don't know if I needed it, but I do appreciate that I did not see it coming at all.
Yeah, I don't know if it was necessary, but it certainly was interesting. Though it definitely, because so both of us, it was kind of hilarious. TJ and I finished reading this at 2 minutes apart. Just by accident. And so he sent me a message and was like, what the hell? And I just flipped the next page and finished it. And I was like, oh, what the hell?
I can see why they did that, because I think pacing wise, it actually would have felt a little empty without that. I think it kind of needed that last little twist to be this was a really complicated mystery. Because because there's still quite, because it's there's a big peak when it's revealed that it's Alberto, and it continues up into the office. But then to have an interesting sort of lingering feeling, I like the Carlo reveal.
I did too.
Yeah, it added a final, it went out with a bang.
It's like how you end a good horror movie with
yeah,
the little girl still inside the TV or something.
Right?
You just got to do something. It's just a little spook to be like, oh, Gotham's fucked up.
Yeah, because she's still out there. Who knows when she'll come back?
Right. Yeah,
she's obviously nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think she comes back either. But I don't think she even appears in Dark Victory. That mystery's just over. I don't think so. I don't think she's important.
I was wondering if she ever comes back and is a bigger villain.
No, not that I'm aware of.
If she appears again, I don't think it's as a supervillain, because there's a whole new thing that happens in Dark Victory.
I feel like in most current versions, Harvey does this character does not exist even. So no. I don't think so.
Yeah, is Harvey is he he's just dating maybe at most, right? In most stories.
Yeah.
He doesn't usually have a wife.
No. This was a surprise to me. I was like, a wife.
It adds a little extra element of tragedy to the Harvey never could have turned out normal, that he had a traditional marriage and they were thinking about having a kid and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely something there.
Harvey's desperate yearning toward normality that he can never have.
I was very entertained.
More sad because of that.
I was very entertained by the random between Harvey and his wife and Jem and his wife, the random Mad Men-esque side stories they had going. There was something very weird about how traditional their marriages were that I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, there's that scene where Jim and his wife come over to party with
right.
Harvey and their wife, and the husbands go and talk to each other, and the wives go and talk to each other.
Right?
Yeah.
They're
It is
like
kinda-
smoking
it is-
cigars together. It's so weird. I was like, this is not that old.
Is this what straight people do? They do like
is this
secret
straight
murders
people?
together?
Straight people, yeah, because you don't
Oh.
have friends when you're like a married couple. You're kind of isolated when you're straight, and you don't have friends that aren't other married couples who visit you. So that feels very much, at least in traditional Americana stereotypes, you know. But now that I think about it, it is so interesting how that's in this story, because it's almost shocking in its mundanity. In
right?
a story where so many insane things happen.
Yeah, it's very strange. I do love the panel where where Harvey and his wife walk in, and Barbara and Jim are there, their little party hats on. I just wrote like they're the biggest dorks, and I love
Yeah,
that.
that was cute.
They're such dorks.
For the
Jim
real
is-
heart.
Yeah, Jim is such a good friend to Harvey, like to like try to
Really
like bring
is.
some social interaction into their
Yeah, like,
stuffy,
'cause-
horrible lives.
Because clearly Harvey is like a full bummer to be around. It's not like he's a joy.
Oh yeah.
Right? So Jim
No.
is like trying his hardest. How sad were you that we did not get to see Bruce's Halloween party?
I didn't even think about that.
Alfred was like, he throws a real Ranger masquerade. And I was like, he does? Excuse?
Everyone's invited except Penguin.
Yes, all of the greatest villains are there.
That feels like that weird sort of like lip service to like, oh, Bruce Wayne is a big socialite around town sort of
Right?
thing. I almost
This is
think you would
very true.
suggest that more Bruce Wayne parties occur that actually do, just to keep the lie going.
Yes, but some of them must occur, or
Some
someone
of them
would
definitely.
notice.
Some of them definitely. Yeah, some of them definitely occur.
I like the idea that he just has a great Gatsby party happening at his house at all times, whether he's there or not. Just like he shows up and he's like, "Oh, there's people."
So what would you guys rate this story? 1 out of 5 batarangs.
Well, I'd give this a solid 4.5 out of 5 batarangs.
Ooh, what did it lose a 0.5 for?
Let's see. I think there's just some unnecessary kind of weird fluff on the story
Yeah,
that I think and it's in the service of like providing more Batman hijinks.
yeah.
But like
that's fair.
stuff where it's like, oh, there's a whole issue about the Joker. It's like not really about the story anymore. So it's like I can
Yeah.
see a more perfect version of this story, but it would only be in the instance of efficiency.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
For me, this lands. This is not in quality, because I feel like quality, it's probably a 5. For me personally, it's probably a 3, just because I prefer a Bat family story to a pure Batman story every time. So
Mhm.
that's where I land.
I
That's
would give
fair.
it a 4. I'd give it a 4. I'm somewhere in between you guys. I think 3 is a little low for me, but I thought about 4.5, but I'm gonna go 4.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I enjoyed it. Just too much mob stuff for me personally.
Yeah.
That's really fair. Yeah. I think you can't argue that this isn't an incredibly well told story.
Oh yeah.
Right.
No, but and the art is amazing.
God, I love the art. It's so
Yes.
good. I draw comics as a hobby too, and I'm a visual storyteller, and so like the way the guy uses panels and uses like light and dark is just like unmatched. It's like so interesting.
Yeah.
All the parallels and like the way he lights stuff. It's like not how lighting works, but he does it anyways. It's so good.
Yeah, every final page of every issue was just like stellar.
I agree. All of the holiday panels too, where it's the like tagging into the next story. Forgetting what those are called. Covers. That's the
Yeah.
word.
It's like that's like an inside cover or something, right?
Yeah.
It's like the first page of the inside.
Like a chapter break. I don't
Yeah.
know. Whatever those are, those were amazing. I loved
Oh,
those.
real quick shout out to the black and white murders.
Ooh, yes.
Every time Holidays does a killing, it's just no sound effects, stark black and white.
Yes.
Like so, like the way you shoot it in like The Godfather or something, and it's just like it's so good.
You just
It
like
is
see
gorgeous.
the blood, the red blood.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's such a good effect because the comic is so rich with color most of the time, and then it suddenly goes
Yeah.
to film noir. I love it.
I love it too. The art is undeniably some of the best we've seen.
So Kent, we ask everyone that comes on our show the same question at the end of our episode. And that is, if you were able to tell an ideal Batman story to your liking, what would it look like and who would it be with? It could be with any characters.
Oh man, that's weird for me.
Right?
Yeah, we have not
Yeah.
usually asked this to people who have already written a Batman story. But say you had no limitations and you could tell any story.
All right, so this is a. I've said this publicly before, so it's like this is my weird thing I'd want to do with the third season of our Batman game, and I can safely say because I don't think I'll ever get to do it.
Don't tell me that, Ken.
Okay, we'll see that. I wanted to do a season where you play as a potential Robin, but the gimmick would be the choices that you make. You could end up turning into, by the end of the story, Robin or Red Hood or Nightwing, kind of depending on like your choice of mentor. Oh, amazing! Wow, look at that.
Like I'm having trouble talking for how much I want that.
I'm always thinking in like terms of what can I make into a video game, because that's my medium.
Do you know how hard I would be trying to turn into Tim Drake? I would just be like making every choice, thinking, what would he do?
All right, all 10 of our listeners, we're going to start a petition to get a season 3 of the Telltale video game.
Yes, we are. We're going to get it happen.
Go send your letters to the new owners of Telltale and see what they want to do.
And 10 was a joke. We do have more than 10 listeners. Thank you very much.
Yes, we have 11. Come on. Just kidding.
Don't count them out.
Just kidding. We love all of you.
So in that version, Ken, are you saying you would like alternate between Batman and the Robin, or just be the Robin?
If I made a third season of the Telltale Batman game, I would want to no longer play as Batman.
That's really fair.
And this is probably you talk more, largely because in a game where you have to make choices, his actual the spectrum of acceptable Batmans you can become is actually fairly limited. Yeah. Because I would much rather play as a character that could be more immoral, which is I like the idea that if you could play as a kid that becomes Robin, if he goes real dark and kills people, you turn into Red Hood. Yeah. You know? So it's like I would love to play, whenever I'm thinking about making a Telltale style game, a protagonist that can make a very wide range of choices that are acceptable based on whatever license we're adapting is always.
I love that.
So in your mind, would that Robin character be Jason Todd if Red Hood is an option, or does it not matter?
I almost think you'd go out of your way to give them a name that's not any of the Robin names or something.
Okay.
Right. So then you could become any of them.
Yeah, they're the Uber Robin.
Oh, I love it.
What was the name of the guy who in The Dark Knight Rises who was named Robin?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, yes. But he had like a name though.
His name was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. No,
I forget. It's like something weird or simple, like John Blake. It
was something like that, and his middle name was Robin. I thought that was such a weird plot point.
Right.
Yeah, I got a lot of problems with that third one.
Well, Kent, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. I'm a big fan of your work, not just the Batman games. So it was such great awesomeness to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. This has been absolutely delightful.
Yeah, where can our listeners find you on social media? And do you have any other upcoming projects or recent projects they should be looking for?
Yes, you can find me at Mudle on Twitter. I don't tweet anything particularly exciting, but you might as well. But I would love for people, if you're interested in comics, to go check out my webcomic that I draw, which is called Beret. You can find it on Tapas. If you go to Tapas and just search for Beret, or type in Beret Tapas, or go to my Twitter, you can find a link to it. It is a manga style comic about a world where being an artist basically makes you a wizard.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah. I'm going to have to check this out.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been delightful.
Bye.
Bye.
Next time on our book club, we're going to be reading Batman Volume 1, I Am Gotham by Tom King and David Finch. And we'll be reading it with our guest,
comedian Gianmarco Soresi.
We're so excited to talk about this with our guest. This is a volume I really love. I love Tom King generally, and his run on Batman is so much fun. He's also a writer we've met a few times at different cons.
Oh, I always forget about who we've met, because when we met them, I wasn't a huge Batman comics reader. So now I would appreciate meeting them much more going forward.
TJ very gamely comes along to meet all the Batman writers with me when I go. So it has ended up getting signed things by multiple Batman writers, having not read their runs on Batman.
Yes, and I have read other stuff by them though. But yeah, I am so excited to talk about this with Gianmarco. He is so funny on Twitter. He's put out some of the funniest stuff I've seen recently. And if you like watching stand-up, you can go watch his new special that has come out on Amazon Prime Video. If you search his name, he'll come up.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Gotham Outsiders. You can find me, Chris, individually on Twitter at The Myth of Psyche, where I talk about queerness and feminism and pretty often Batman. You can also find me now on the new podcast Progressively Horrified with comics writers Jeremy Whitley and Ben Kahn. And TJ, where can they find you?
They can find me at TroyFin2 on Twitter, where I talk about all things book related and occasionally Batman related.
And you can find us both over on the Gotham Outsiders Twitter, at Gotham Outsiders on Twitter, where we talk about Batman all the time. Thanks for listening, and tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat place.